Okay, welcome back to YouTube, WTEW Bible Studies. We're in chapter 18. If you watched chapter 17 and you never heard that before and you understood it, congratulations. The good thing about YouTube, you can go back and watch that as many times as you want. I strongly advise you to get that chart and just look at that, maybe read through the book of Daniel so you can follow that one at a time. And then the more you read it, of course, the more it'll become clear. It's clear when you go through the books, but I can't possibly go through all of Daniel and the Revelation to talk about those seven heads and 10 horns, so that you would understand it. That would take me forever, and probably wouldn't be any more clear than when I made it with the last video. So we're just going to keep trucking along here. So chapter 18 now in the book of Revelation, verse 1. After these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she has filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God that judges her. We see an angel telling John again what's going to happen. So Babylon the Great is fallen, 18:2. Right here, we're in the sixth story. We saw that same thing here in the fourth story in Revelation 14:8. Babylon is fallen, That's the same thing. It's full of sin, is what that means. So God, in the next verse, looks like God destroys it, burns it up with fire. One day, He's going to destroy the whole city. Now, this is not Rome. Rome sounds like it gets burned up with fire, but that's a different time. So when Rome got burned up, that is when the Antichrist took power from Rome, and he will set up his own world capital. And I don't know where that's going to be. So it may be Damascus. Isaiah 21, I believe it is, has got a picture of Damascus getting burned up. I don't know if you can see that from the shore. It talks a lot about the sailors and whatnot, people that make money from trade, being able to see it. Of course, we got TV worldwide, so maybe they're watching on TV just as that place gets destroyed. But, this is the Antichrist. He's going to be smart. He's going to know how to make people wealthy. People are going to fall. They're going to be rich. They're going to be living their great life until they get called into duty to go to battle against God. That's not going to be so great for them. They become the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit. Demons are going to be loose on the earth. People are going to be deceived, and these hateful birds, unclean and hateful birds, that's another symbol for these evil spirits. We got a parable of the sower. The birds come and take what's planted in you. That's a picture of Satan coming and taking the seed. So that's shown in different places that the birds are these evil spirits. All nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of fornication. We learned about that in 17:6. I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So they're killing Christians. That's their sin. And that sin reached unto God, and so now God's going to repay her. They're killing Christians, give her double. So if they killed 10,000 Christians, God's going to kill 20,000 of them. So she's living great. Like I said, they're rich, and so she says, I sit as a queen. The king is the Antichrist. So the Antichrist is married to the city. The emperor and the empire, the king and the kingdom go together. It's like a marriage, I guess. So that's why this Babylon is a queen, and she says that she's never going to see sorrow, but the next verse, her destruction comes in a day. Then we go down to verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament her for her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise any more, merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen, purple and silk and scarlet, thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, all kinds of stuff. Keep going in verse 13. And cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil, fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and the souls of men. People are going to be taking the mark of the beast under this. Not only do they have all the goods, but people are going to sell themselves. They're going to take that mark in order to gain this worldly wealth. And verse 14, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors, as many as trade by the sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Again, city, 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 city. Babylon is a city. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For 1 hour she is made desolate. So when Babylon goes down, all the people that got wealthy because of the city and the Antichrist, they're all going to be sad now because all their money's gone. Verse 20, we're going to see another side. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. So Revelation 6:10, we saw people in heaven. This is way back to the fifth seal, and they cried out to God. Let me see if I can find that here. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Well, this is the time. God is coming. He hasn't actually hit the earth yet, but he has destroyed this great city before he even makes his appearance. So these people are avenged. Verse 21, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it in the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of the harpers and musicians and pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more in thee at all, and no craftsman or whatever craft he be shall be found no more in thee. The sound of the millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of the candles shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard in thee no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. So sorceries are actually drugs. He's going to have a good drug market there as well. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and the saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Again, if you think this is throughout history, he's just talking about during the time of this final great city. So there have been great cities all through, which have also been harlots, Babylons, because they're ruling against God. All of these rulers think that they're God. And the great city, this governing city, rules against what God is thinking. So Babylon was a city state and really an empire. So the city of Babylon was the capital, and it ruled over the whole earth. From King Nebuchadnezzar ruled over the whole earth from Babylon. So we would have the king or Antichrist type character with the great city, the harlot named Babylon. The Medes and the Persians, their capital was Susa or Shushan, is either way in the Bible. It's found there, and that's in Iran. So that would have been the harlot in their day, the capital city of the empire of the Medes and the Persians. Greece, Alexander actually went back to Babylon. He liked it there. I guess they had the hanging gardens of Babylon, and that was he just seemed to stay there, and he didn't have any more worlds to conquer, so he was kind of unmotivated to move from where he just ended up. King of the South and Egypt, they weren't really world rulers, so they don't really count. But the Roman Empire, of course, the great city there was Rome. And the new Rome, I would assume that Rome is also going to be the harlot there. That's the great city that's going to be destroyed by the 10 kings. So at first, that's going to be the capital city that is actually in charge of the 10 kings. But when the Antichrist comes, he's going to destroy that city. And so when we get this new king of the north ruling over the Roman Empire, I'm not sure exactly where that will be from. All the people there are going to get wiped out. So, if it's Jerusalem, they have those neutron bombs. So it destroys all the people that were there, and it will be re inhabited with God's people. So if Jerusalem happens to be that capital city, all these people are going to be wiped out. And Zechariah talks about how their flesh will just melt from their bodies. It doesn't matter if it's a horse or a man. Same thing's going to happen. It sounds like one of those neutron bombs. So we used to have GE Jack Welch. He fired like 10% of his company every year, so they called him Neutron Jack. So the building still stayed, but his workforce kept getting smaller and smaller. He didn't like that name. But so there's been Babylons throughout history. It just means the world capital. Then Jesus, he's going to be the final ruler, and of course his capital is going to be in Jerusalem. So if Jerusalem is wiped out, becomes that desolation, it's going to be re-inhabited with God's people. Other options are Babylon. I mean, it keeps saying Babylon, so it may just be Babylon again. Maybe Damascus, because we see, well, Damascus is in Syria, where the king of the north is going to come from, and we see that city gets destroyed. I believe that's Isaiah 21.